I am your host, Elad, and today I'm reporting to you from Richmond, Virginia at a pro-Second Amendment rally. Let's go talk to some folks, see what's going on.
All the way on side street.
We're out here today in Richmond, Virginia for a pro-gun rally. I see you have a sign over here that says, "We will not comply." Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Okay, first of all, today's MLK Day, and the Second Amendment is our constitutional right, and I think it's ironic that the governor of Virginia, who either had blackface or a Klan's outfit on, would take a day to ban firearms for people that want to lawfully protest some of the legislations that's being shoved down people's throat. It's very much a civil rights issue in addition to being a constitutional crisis, the things that he's doing. And so as an African American, I find it very offensive. The basic right that we have is the ability to defend and protect ourselves and our loved ones, you know. And so I thank you guys for being out here and sharing with folks and finding out a little bit
I wanted
more
to follow
about
up.
them,
So this says we will not comply. So
Correct.
Ralph Northam and many of the Democrats here in Virginia are ready to move forward with these different gun control laws. What will we will not comply mean? How are we not going to comply with the laws?
Well, first of all, we'll have to see what comes to pass. And the right of the people shall not be infringed, and it simply means what it means. We will not comply. And so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But whether it's going through the court system or other means necessary.
I wanted to ask you about the media covering the event leading up to it. So many people in the media were saying that this is a white supremacist event. And
No.
have you heard any of that? And
No.
what do you think about that
Well,
coverage like that?
I think that was a straw man that was put up to one, give them an opportunity to ban firearms from this peaceful rally. What happened in Charlottesville has nothing to do with what's taking place today, and I feel comfortable here as I feel any other place. And once again, it is a civil rights issue to be able to defend yourself and your loved ones. And the fact that they would push forth that narrative and make it a racist issue, or try to make it a racist issue, is a
Almost
shame.
feels like they're baiting for something
Oh,
to
absolutely,
go wrong.
absolutely. And if it's peaceful, they'll say it's because we banned firearms. If you got to have one minor incident, then they'll say it was white supremacists that came and caused havoc at the rally. It's ridiculous.
I had one last question I wanted to ask you about. So the Democrats in Virginia, they really run the state government, and they ran on a platform of gun control. And if that's what the people want, and that's how the elected officials got into office, why isn't that something we should move forward with?
That doesn't mean, first of all, I don't like using those broad terms of the Democrats, because I know people that are Democrat, but they're pro-Second Amendment. And so to use that broad stroke, I think is not meaningful to the conversation. The fact that they were elected into office doesn't mean that that people want restrictions on their civil rights and their human rights. And so I don't equate those two together.
Absolutely.
So
Just quickly in conclusion, anything else you wanted to mention, sir?
no, I just thank you guys for being out here interviewing people.
Thank you so much for your time,
thank
sir. I
you,
really
sir.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Guys, the history is
Alex
repeating
Jones.
itself. We're arrogant tyrants. No, the problem.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Well, we're here to protect Democrats from taking out Second Amendment right. I'm from Communist China originally, and in China, you don't have any right. A rally like this, you see what happened in Hong Kong. I assume that you see what happened in Tiananmen Square. That's not happening here, because the citizens have political power. Like Chairman Mao said, political power comes from the gun barrel of a gun. And when the government come in and take your guns away, takes your political power, next thing they take away will be your First Amendment right, your right to free speech. And next thing you know, all your right, all your constitution, it undermines the entire United States, the entire Constitution. So we're going to start here, make sure they don't take the first piece of break off to undermine the whole building.
Do you guys live in Virginia now?
I am.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of out-of-staters. How does it feel to have so many people who support the Second Amendment come to Virginia for this rally?
I respect it, and I love the fact that everybody's standing together. Virginia is Second Amendment state. A lot of founding fathers started from here. It is important because if Virginia falls, everywhere falls as well. And I appreciate everybody's support coming over here, and I especially appreciate everybody coming here peaceful, showing them that we are not crazy, we're not gun nuts, we're not racist, we're not white supremacists. We're just normal citizens that want to protect ourselves, want to protect the United States.
I want to follow up on that because leading up to the event, Ralph Northam called for a national emergency. That's why we're not allowed to have firearms next to the state capitol. Outside, we are allowed to. Also, the media was talking a lot about white supremacists showing up to the event, and they were trying to conflate the two. So what do you think about how Ralph called for the national emergency, and then how the media was trying to display the event?
I think a lot of those just trying to twist narrative. They want to control what people want to see. Look at all these people in here. Even they take away our right. We give up the right to be in here to show the fact that we're compliant. We're just being good citizens, right? They last minute they say, oh, no cigarette lighters. You can't even take tobacco in here. So a lot of people couldn't even come in because a lot of people still smoke. And it's just trying to make things difficult for us.
Why do you think the media is pushing this narrative?
Somebody paying them for it.
Yeah.
I mean, if the media is no longer a journalist, they're not telling the truth. They want to control media. They want to control a narrative, and they also want to make money. You don't make money by showing a peaceful protest. You get money from conflicts, and that's what they're pushing for, conflicts.
It seems like the media is almost trying to bait a conflict in certain respects. So that's just all very interesting. I also want to ask you quickly in conclusion, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I'm okay. Thank you. And by the way, you look around here, it's not white supremacists. You have all people, all color. What you really have is red, white, and blue. Americans. Absolutely. That's what you have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I've been treated far worse by the left than by the right, this Jewish woman has.
It's ridiculous.
It's all bullshit.
I know it is. You got it right.
Don't control is racist.
Yeah.
Is there any chance I can ask you some questions?
Sure.
We are out here today in Richmond, Virginia at this Second Amendment rally. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Well, I love my country and I love my Constitution, and I have 2 small children, and I'm not going to leave the fight of the chipping away of our Constitution to them. I'm going to stand for my children today.
Absolutely. Are you from out of state?
Yeah, I live in Connecticut.
So what does it mean for you to show up? You came all the way from Connecticut to Virginia. Why'd you show up here, and what's it mean for you to show up?
I showed up to stand with my other proud brothers and sisters in the Patriot movement and push back on the radical left that's trying to erode our gun rights.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you about the media's coverage of the event. If you follow just what the media said, I understand
You
they
mean
were
the fake news media?
They were saying this is a white supremacist event and many white supremacists would be here. What do you think about that narrative being pushed?
I have seen no white supremacist. I'm a proud Jewish mother, and I do not stand with white supremacists, and I do not see any here. Sorry.
Yeah. Why do you think the media was pushing that narrative?
Well, I think they push a lot of their narrative to scare people off not to show up. Oh, you don't want to be labeled as that. But you know what? We're sick of it. It's just background noise at this point. We don't feed into it. We don't listen to them because we all know each other, and we all know that we're not that.
Absolutely. And one last question I had for you. Donald Trump at one point floated around the idea of red flag laws.
No,
do you remember
won't do
that? And did that concern you at all?
No, he walked that back. He always likes to rattle the cages of the left, and that got him all freaked out because he thinks if he's for the red flag laws, they're going to go for something else.
If he says he's for red flag laws, they're going to say it's bad,
yeah,
right?
he could cure cancer, and they would say that he took away millions of jobs, So there you go, Trump 2020 right here.
Thank you.
Do what you want, meet up for drinks, head out, whatever.
These people's weapons away, and that's what they get to.
Do you think it's a little bit odd that the communities, that people that say they champion women, that say they champion the LGBT community, are often the same people who are talking about gun control most frequently?
Let's say that all of us in the Pistols, we joke about about coming out of the gun closet. And the Pink Pistols and Blazing Sword are open to everybody, all orientations. Gay.
So why do you think the people who are extremely progressive, who say they defend groups that are marginalized, seem to always push for more gun control?
If I can answer, it's
Yeah.
I am female, I am Latin, I'm gay, and so I am one of those people. I'm not very big, so really my only equalizer is to be armed, right? So when people say, oh, well, you know, you can't have a gun, I'm like, well, who's going to protect me? You know, I'm going to go call the police and be like the rapist, hey, give them 5 minutes, they're going to show up, please don't harm me.
5 minutes if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's like, I look at it, I'm like, and I'm a minority. So who do these guns affect the most? The minorities. And so all these people that supposedly they champion, they're hurting them. So it's like, I wish they would take a step back and say, you know what, let me defend myself. If you don't want a gun, don't get one. But look at all these people. Nobody is hurting anybody. And I have had more acceptance from the gun community than from my own gay community for being a gun owner, because they see my need to be able to defend myself.
Very interesting. Can I see a look at the flag?
Oh, yeah.
So it is a rainbow flag, but it's also a "Don't Tread on Me." Could you tell me a little bit about the significance of the flag and what it means?
Well, it's the standard meaning of the Gadsden flag: freedom or death. Don't tread on me. You know, you step on a rattlesnake and it's going to hurt. You know. On the other hand, if you don't mess with a snake, it usually won't bother you. And don't mess with people who defend themselves actively, and you won't get hurt. Mess with us, and there might be some issues. I'm being a little bit more discreet than some of the people here, but I'm James Bonding with one under the coat here.
Yeah.
But
I had one last question for you guys, and I wanted to ask you about the media covering this event and Ralph calling for a national emergency, and that's the reason why we can't have firearms in there. So the media was kind of conflating this with a white supremacist rally, and they were saying there was going to be a lot of white supremacists here. I want to ask you, what do you think about that characterization, and have you found any white supremacists here?
Well, I haven't seen any. You see any white supremacists?
Well, I guess I'm one, so they've really lowered their standards if they let me in, so I'm not sure how that goes.
Good point. Yeah. You know, I'm not seeing any Nazi flags around. I'm not seeing any KKK except for the hood on the guy that wants to take our guns.
Exactly.
You know, there's a few guy behind the hood wants your gun signs around, but that's the only hoods I'm seeing.
Why do you think that narrative is being pushed in the media?
Because the media is intensely biased against the notion of self-defense. And this is absolutely 100% my opinion. Take it with umpteen buckets of salt, right? Armed self-defense is a symptom or an example or a characteristic of self-reliance. You know, I have my own food and water with me right now. I have a first aid kit, I've got a trauma kit, and I've got a tourniquet in my pack. You know, I am armed. And the principle is self-reliance, because if you are self-reliant, you're not dependent on the state. And these people want you to be dependent. They're dependent, they're incapable of taking care of themselves. They want mommy state to take care of them. And then people like us who don't want, we don't care about mommy. We're fully capable of taking care of ourselves. You know, back during the Bush era, somebody said that Republicans who supported Bush wanted daddy to save them from the big bad Arabs. And then the Democrats wanted mommy to save them from bad daddy. And then all of us libertarians said, we're adults and we don't need a mommy and daddy.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Nothing less. Revolution, nothing less. Trump hands out now. Trump hands out now. No white supremacy. No white supremacy. A better world is possible. A better world is possible.
Excuse me, sir. Can you tell us why you're out here today?
And follow us at Humans and Left on social media.
Do you guys have any comments on why you're out here?
Everybody who wants a better world needs to get with this revolution. Get organized into the Revolution Club. It represents stands for and fights for the very opposite.
You're a real observer?
I'm a legal observer.
Okay. What else are you?
A fascist presidency that has been impeached and is about to go on trial. For everybody who can't stand living another second under an open white supremacist fascist regime. For everybody who can't stand to live another second while children are in cages. For everybody who can't stand another revolution. Bob Avakian is the leader of this revolution. We are the Get Organized for an Actual.
I don't care anymore. It's 6 p.m. You're out here today at the state capitol of Virginia. I see you have a sign over here that says Second Amendment sanctuaries. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
I'm very proud of my gun rights, and the Constitution says straightforward, the right to carry arms shall not be infringed. This Governor Northam doesn't have the right to do what he's doing.
Absolutely. So this sign's talking about like sanctuary cities, except now it's with firearms. Do you think that's a good idea to do? Did you think it was a good idea for like illegal immigration to have those sanctuary cities and now trying to do it with firearms?
No, it's not. But I wish that we didn't have to go this far. I wish the state would just back off of what they're planning on doing here. But at least the state legislatures and the legislators and the governor know that people are not in favor of this. It's only a small group of elected officials that's doing this thing.
Absolutely. So I want to follow up on that point because as I understand, the state legislature is full of Democrats here in Virginia, and largely what they ran on was gun control. So if that's what the people voted for and they got all these politicians in, why shouldn't they be able to move forward with legislation that they saw fit?
Because this is in violation of the Second Amendment. There are other ways of controlling crime without violating Second Amendment laws. Take the guns away from the criminals, not from the law-abiding citizens.
Do you think there should be any limit on the Second Amendment, maybe with automatic weapons or small bombs, something like that?
No more than there is already. I think the law is very clear. Automatic weapons have to be licensed in a special way, and I think that's perfectly fine.
I had one last topic I wanted to talk to you about. A lot of the media's coverage coming up to the event was conflating a lot of the things here with white supremacy, and they were trying to conflate that with the rally. Did you hear any of that, and why do you think the media is covering it as such?
No, I think that's a false idea. I think they want it to look that way to make these people look like they're some kind of anti-government or anti-black. None of that is going on here. These are all.
You didn't see any white supremacists here?
Not at all. Not a thing like that.
Absolutely. No. Quickly in conclusion, anything else you want to mention?
No, thanks very much. I appreciate this.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Yeah, I served our country for a couple of years. I decided, it's a big issue. It's obviously very polarizing for both sides. I personally am out here just to, provide aid medically if anything does go wrong for whomever. We're all happy to be here, and it's good to see that things have ended up so far peacefully and quiet. And for the most part, extremists on both sides have been few and far between. So at the end of the day, we're just here supporting our Second Amendment rights, and hopefully it continues to remain calm.
As I understand, they banned firearms on the actual state capitol, and we're on the outskirts now. You have your open carry. How does it feel to have your open carry here?
Honestly, I went so long in the military that, having a rifle on me at all times, and it just feels normal. I was actually, when I first got out of the Army, I went to buy a firearm for the first time, and I came out of the gun shop, and I'm like, all right, well, how do I get into my car? It's like, you can just bring it outside. It's like, just to my car? Like, yeah, like without, they're like, yeah, just go, leave. So,
are you from Virginia?
Yeah, I grew up here in Virginia Beach, but I left right after high school, so.
There's a lot of out-of-staters here showing support with the Virginians. Do you think that's important for a lot of people from all different states to come and show support?
Well, I say it is very important for people out of state to come show support, but I think it's more important not only because it's the big first real event in the United States where we're coming together so big, but you can see in other places like Washington State and New York where they are getting together and they are meeting with their city halls, and Tennessee and Kentucky, where this may be the first step, but I think they're going to be able to take that home and be able to make a difference back in their home states.
My last question to you is going to be about the media coverage of the event. Leading up to the event, they were saying that, there are going to be white supremacists here, and it's like a white supremacist adjacent type rally. What do you think about that coverage of the event, and did you see any white supremacists here?
No, I mean, everywhere you go, there's going to be nut jobs. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I've just seen a lot of people who are just happy to be here, cold people. I haven't seen any extremists for the most part. It's just people are just happy to be here.
Do you think the media is trying to push a narrative with that?
Oh, absolutely. But I think at this point, that's not news. It's just a given. We all know that's going to happen.
Why do you think they do that?
Well, I mean, there's no such thing as, unbiased media at this point. It goes one way or the other. At this point, it's hard to find news media or an outlet that gives unbiased, neutral news.
Absolutely. Just quickly in conclusion, anything else you want to mention?
Hey, Mom. That's about it, sir.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I'm envious. I wish I had one. We're out here today in Richmond, Virginia, in support of our Second Amendment and gun rights. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Sure, I'm a sportsman by nature. My son taught me how to hunt. He got me involved in the shooting sports. I own several handguns and several rifles, and I'm a sportsman. So when the state of Virginia comes and says, well, every time you get in an argument with your wife, I might come to your house and knock on your door and ask you to voluntarily give up your guns. And if you don't voluntarily give up your guns, I will come in your house and I will take your guns by law of the state of Virginia. That's scary to me because, you know, if you have a girlfriend or you have a relationship, you always know there's going to be confrontation.
People lie too. So.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I'm mad at you. So I'm going to tell the law that you threatened me.
Yeah.
And then they will come and they will take your weapons.
And of course, red flag laws. I want to follow up and ask you though. There's a lot of people here today. Many people came from out of state. Are you from Virginia or out of state?
I'm from Virginia.
Oh, awesome. What do you think about so many people from other states coming to support Virginians here today?
I think it's great because they see the slow erosion of our Second Amendment rights. It's a slow erosion. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's a slippery slope when you start to give up your rights. And you know, no, I don't need a 30 round magazine on my. But if I want to have one, because I'm too lazy to reload, I want to have the
God-given right.
Yeah, I want to have the 30 round magazine. So there's a lot of strange laws that they're proposing that are now out of the committee now.
About those laws and about the people putting them in place. So the Virginia state legislative is filled with Democrats, and it seems obviously the Virginians voted them in. If this is what the Virginians voted for, why shouldn't they be able to move forward with more gun control laws?
They will, and I'll say one thing about the Republicans. They had a chance to bring this to a debate, and they nixed it. They should have stood up while they had control and debated the issues instead of letting it die in committee. So I blame this for the Democrats' reaction was, now we're in power, we're going to push this right on through, and you're the minority, so you just sit in place and we'll tell you what we're going to do.
Speaking about Republicans not standing up for the Second Amendment enough, I know Donald Trump floated around the ideas of red flag laws a few months ago. Would that change your mind about Donald Trump if he did push through some sort of red flag laws? Did you hear when he spoke about that? Did you hear about that?
I know about that. I don't think he realized what he was saying at the time. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but none of us support that. It's not going to get through. There's no such thing as due process later after the fact. Nothing like that.
Would you vote for Donald Trump in 2020 if he did push through some sort of red flag laws or spoke about it or floated around the idea more?
Hell no. Our votes aren't determined by a letter next to somebody's name. We want our rights. We want to keep our rights. And red flag laws are about the worst thing. It's not just Second Amendment. It's unpatriotic. It's un-American to put through something like that.
We're out here today in Richmond, Virginia at a guns rights rally. I see you have a sign over here that says guns rights or women's rights. Right. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Well, because I'm a woman and I think that I have a right to be able to defend myself, to own firearms if I want to go hunting, if I want to go to a range and just enjoy shooting, or if God forbid, I need to defend myself.
Absolutely. And as I understand, this is Lobby Day, and they do this every year at the Capitol. This year, they called a national emergency and weren't allowing firearms on the Capitol here. What do you think about that?
I think it's illegal. I think that Governor Northam is afraid because he's opened up a very big can of worms in Virginia, trying to do away with our gun rights. And it's unconstitutional what he's doing, and I think he knows he's doing it. And I think he's very afraid. I don't think that he'll be reelected. Hopefully, he will not be reelected, nor will anybody else who is in the legislature now voting against gun rights.
Mm-hmm. As I understand, many Democrats here in Virginia ran on gun control, and that was a big issue. Now that all of them were elected into office, why wouldn't it make sense for them to move forward if that's one of the big reasons why they were elected?
My understanding is that about half of the registered Republicans didn't come out and vote because here in Virginia, historically, our gun rights have been protected. So they were probably kind of complacent about certainly this is not going to happen here in Virginia. Unfortunately, in a lot of districts, Democrats are running unopposed. So when they come out and start saying that they have won the majority vote and that's why they're in office, so that this is what the people want, that's untrue. So we will change that their next election cycles.
And I also know there's some like sanctuary cities now except with guns. Do you think that's a good idea to have sanctuary cities in Virginia except for like not illegal immigrants, just for gun rights?
If somebody is here illegally, illegal means they're illegal. So to give them rights is wrong, and to take away our rights is wrong.
And last question I had for you, leading up to this event, the media was calling this like a white supremacist rally, and they were trying to conflate gun rights with white supremacy. Did you see any of that in the media, and what do you think about the media's coverage of coming to the event?
I think the media is wrong in probably 98% of their coverage of anything. It's very lopsided, and gun rights have nothing to do with somebody's color or their gender. There are two genders, and so gun rights have nothing to do with that. Gun rights are for everybody who's not a felon. They have a right to own a gun and buy as many guns as they want to and do what they want to with them, as long as they're not breaking the law. And it's in our Constitution. In fact, if Governor Northam has ever read the Constitution of the United States of America or Mark Herring, they would know that what they are doing is illegal.
Absolutely. Quickly in conclusion, anything else you want to mention?
No,
thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So we're out here today at the capital of Virginia, the Virginia State Capitol. I see you have a sign over here that says Second Amendment sanctuaries. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
I'm out here because the Second Amendment is extremely important to me. I think it's the amendment that holds our Constitution together and keeps the rest of America just at bay and keeps kind of the government in check to we the people. Absolutely. And that's absolutely important, and we're getting further and further away from that. And it just represents how much of Virginia doesn't want gun control, and the little black areas represent the areas that do want gun control. And I mean, it's amazing that we have 90-some% of the state that doesn't want gun control, but yet they're still trying to shove it down our throats.
To be fair, are these where the population centers are? Just because, are these mostly empty space, and then some of these are where all the population is?
This is a heavily densely popular area. This is Northern Virginia. This is Abington, and this is Newport News, which all voted heavily Democratic in the last elections and stuff like that.
Let me follow up about the sanctuary city policies, though. I know some leftist-leaning cities have sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants.
Yes.
You think we should have the same thing for guns?
That's what we did. That's what all these counties did, is they came up with either a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution or a constitutional county amendment, where the county and the officials of that county said they're not going to enforce these unjust laws.
Do you think it's good to have those sanctuary cities, though? Because what one city might say is unjust, other people might disagree with, right? So, like,
correct.
I disagree with sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants. I don't think sanctuary cities for gun laws make sense either.
My county felt the same way, and they did not want to go with the Second Amendment sanctuary because they felt the same thing. Next time you get 3,000, 4,000 people together, you have to sanctuary this, you have to sanctuary that. That's why the county that I live in and the Board of Supervisors, I thought, did a good job with this, but they decided to go with a constitutional amendment county because what they want to protect is the whole Constitution. Absolutely. And the basis of the foundation of America. Absolutely. Not so much just one aspect or the other aspect. And like you said, if we sanctuary this, what's not to say that we have to sanctuary that? And then the next thing that comes up,
all sanctuaries are ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So.
That's the thing, is that we should have enough responsibility as just law-abiding citizens that we don't need sanctuaries for unjust things.
Yeah. I wanted to follow up and ask you about the media coverage of this event leading up to it. So many in the media would lead you to believe that it's like a white supremacist event or a white supremacist adjacent event. So do you think this is a white supremacist event? Have you seen any white supremacists here?
I have not. I haven't been called a Nazi or anything like that today. I normally don't see that type of stuff at the rallies that I attend. Normally the Second Amendment community is a very good Christian-based family, God, country
Have you heard that narrative coming from the media?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've heard the narrative was very negative about things. I think they put all these fences up, and then I think they put out all that bad publicity to try to keep people out, to try to make it seem like no one is actually interested in this, to make it down the size of the issue that it is, to really downplay it.
And part of that was Ralph Northam calling for a national emergency. That's the reason why we're not allowed to have firearms on the actual state capitol here. Correct. What do you think about Ralph Northam doing that, and is he representing the people of Virginia very well?
No, not at all. I think think he's representing his own personal interest and the special interest groups that have bought into Virginia. Bloomberg, Moms Demand Action, those sorts of things. I think he's catering to them more so than the actual voters of Virginia and his constituents.
We're out here today at Richmond, Virginia. I see you have a sign over here that says, New York stands with Virginia.
Yes.
So why'd you come out here today all the way from New York to Virginia at this gun rally?
Yep, I drove 8 hours from Albany, New York to support everybody here in the fight to protect the Second Amendment, actually all constitutional rights. If there was a law against the free press, I'd be down here, to make sure that we protect this very, very important right. In the state of New York, we had our rights curtailed by an abusive legislature and governor. Things got rammed through with the SAFE Act in the middle of the night, literally the middle of the night. And I just don't want that to happen here in Virginia, because I think the model of money coming in and influencing politicians to overturn and change laws is a model that will be used in other states, and we can't let that happen. Virginia is an important state, and it needs to be protected. That's why I'm here.
I want to follow up and ask you, I see a lot of "we will not be complicit" signs, a lot of people very frustrated with the gun control. I also know that Ralph Northam called for national emergency, and that's why we're not allowed to have firearms on the actual state capitol. Yes. That's a form of gun control. So what do you think about Ralph Northam putting that national emergency in place and not allowing guns on the Capitol here?
My personal opinion is that it's cowardly. I don't think this is probably one of the safest places you can be in the world right now. There's many people that are carrying. I think that's a tactic that was used to corral people and control people. That's my personal opinion. I personally am not going in the fence. I'm assuming that many Virginians hope that they are. Unfortunately, that the unarmed, disarm themselves. That's a problem. One way in, two ways out is a problem. So I think just standing out here and just having a show of force. I know that the lobbying is actually over. They passed a lot of stuff through the middle of the night. So we're not really here to change any. That's my understanding.
I want to follow up with you on that point, though, because in the state legislature here in Virginia, they're all Democrats, and they ran on gun control. And if that's what the people here in Virginia voted for, then why should they not move forward with it?
I would disagree with you that the people, I think it was people in a few select states, so populous states did that, as was happened in New York. I mean, New York City.
No, but here in Virginia, at the state legislative level, everybody there is Democrats, and they got voted in by Virginians, right? So, and if gun control is what they want, and that's what they voted in, and all the people in there are Democrats who want gun control, even though we may disagree, why shouldn't they be able to move forward with it?
I suppose that's a valid point. I think one of the critiques of that is that a lot of Virginians didn't show up. It was a very low turnout. I think my personal opinion is that probably the next time there's an election in Virginia, based on this turnout, that there's going to be some changes with some of the legislators that are sitting up on that hill right now. At least that's my personal opinion.
In a certain respect, too, it is the Constitution, and regardless of what state wants, the Constitution shouldn't be infringed, is a general thought. I also wanted to ask you about the media coverage moving up to the coming up to the event. So many people in the media were talking about how this is a white supremacist event, and many people here would be conflated with white supremacists. What do you think about that coverage, and have you seen any white supremacists here?
I have not seen a white supremacist. I am not one. I haven't talked to one. That's a complete media lie as far as I'm concerned. Everybody here is a average citizen that are just simply wanting to have their rights recognized and expressing their rights. That is a media manipulation as far as I'm concerned. I personally haven't seen that, and I have no reason to.
Why do you think the media is pushing that narrative?
The media likes conflict. I mean, let's face it, right? If it bleeds, it leads. So there's always room for controversy. And if there's a fight here or somebody's getting hit, that makes the front. Not all the people that are standing here peacefully just holding signs and waving flags.
It's almost like they prefer something bad to happen here.
I would argue that the press does that frequently, unfortunately. I wish it didn't happen.
Absolutely. Quickly in conclusion, anything else you want to mention?
No, just I'm happy to see a great turnout from many people, not only from Virginia, but from all across the country. I've spoken to a lot of people. People have come up to me as a result of the sign that I'm holding. And, it's our right to assemble peacefully, and that's exactly what's happening here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it.